Next on our cast list, and you'll notice that I'm going through the cast list kind of in order of appearance of their main roles. So next on the cast list is Skip Beals, Hallock Beals. Again, Skip is a nickname that we know that we've used for him since college. I actually don't know if that's a nickname that came to him in college or if that's something he came to college with. I seem to recall being introduced to him as Skip and learning Hallock later. Actually, his full name is Hallock Wilson Beals the Third. He is a third. I love that. But yeah, his professional name is Hallock Beals. So there it is. Hallock, Skip, is one of our more visible Chapman Theater graduates as well. He's an '05, like I am. So he's from the same class as me, so we took a lot of our classes together. We're in a lot of productions together. Skip has done some pretty visible stuff. He's been in a few notable movies. He was in Letters from Iwo Jima. I don't know if you may or may not have seen any of Clint Eastwood's films about the Iwo Jima World War II battle. He made two. There's Flags from Our Fathers, which tells it from the American side. It's kind of a flashback film. It's not even my favorite. I prefer Letters from Iwo Jima, not just because of Skip, but just because I love that movie. I think it's a great film. Letters from Iwo Jima tells the story of the Iwo Jima battle from the side of the Japanese, starring Ken Watanabe. Skip is not Japanese. Skip plays one of the American soldiers who shows up at the very end on the island, and he's the one who picks up the sword. I actually, God, it's been so long since I actually seen the film, sadly, so I don't even remember whose sword it is, whether it's the Watanabe character or the other character that we kind of follow throughout the story. But he's the one who picks up the sword and is like looking at it like, ooh, what's this kind of thing. That's Skip. He also has had maybe the most visible role for any of the Chapman grads thus far, which is he had a supporting role in The Last Song, the Miley Cyrus movie. He was the friend of the guy that Miley ends up with. I still haven't seen the entire film. I watched it a little bit, but mostly fast forwarded to the scenes that Skip's in. And he's great in it, but of course I knew that. I knew he was a great actor anyway. So I haven't had the chance to watch the entire thing. Sorry, Skip. And for those who are wondering, there are no gossipy stories. Miley is apparently a very terrific girl. He had a fine time working on the project, and obviously he's very Skip is very, if I can speak for him, he was very grateful to get that job because it's such a visible role. So all positives from The Last Song. So yay for Skip, yay. That's awesome, and I can't wait to see his career go even farther than it already has. Skip getting into this part was very interesting in that he kind of tracked me down. I had already cast Eric Satterberg, again through Eric, who's another '05. So Skip, Eric, and myself are all from the same graduating class at Chapman. The other cast members, I think most of them are '07s. But we're all from the same graduating class, and I was recording Eric, and Eric had apparently been talking to Skip that he was doing this thing with me, and Skip sent a message through Eric saying, like, hey, I would love to be in this. Alex is doing this thing. That's awesome. Let him know if he's got a role for me. I would totally love to do it. And interestingly enough, I had just had somebody drop out. And interestingly enough, not only did he send that message to Eric, but then like some hours later after I'd recorded Eric and got back home, I got another text message from Eric saying, Skip really wants to be in. Call him. So that was really cool. I was like, wow, this is a writing on the wall. I totally have to do this. Again, this is somebody who I may not have called originally because I just thought, here's a guy who's too busy. He's just, he's been in all these neat things thus far. Why would he do my tinky little thing? But he was totally up for it. He tracked me down to be in it. So that's really cool. I love that he did that. So that was really neat, and I'm so glad that Skip was able to do this. I had a different actor who was going to be playing Marshall, but that actor had to drop out. So when I heard Skip wanted to do it, I called him up and said, can you do a cowboy accent? He was like, yeah, sure, well, no problem. And scheduled it up and had him do Marshall, which, for me, I was very entertained by all of my actors, but it was very entertaining for me in particular watching Skip do these lines. And some of Marshall's lines are just so over the top in their cowboyness that I will always treasure the memories of watching him in front of the mic doing these lines. Is bloody hilarious. He's going hoo-wee and all sorts of stuff like that. And we talked a little bit about the nature of Marshall in terms of psychologically where he was at. We particularly talked about kind of the cowboy persona, because in that respect you could perceive him as being a clown, and I don't want him to be a clown, particularly because the character has such a serious connection into the story itself. But what we ended up deciding was that this whole cowboy persona, even if this is not exactly accurate to the Ace Attorney canon, this was just a decision that we made as director and actor that made the character work as a performance. We decided that this cowboy persona was something that Jake was pushing deliberately, like he was purposefully doing this persona as a way to kind of hide the hurt inside about his brother's death. And so what that meant in terms of performance is that when he finally kind of lets his guard down and starts talking about Neil, and we finally reveal, where the whole where his connection is in the case during the second trial day, he drops the accent, not entirely, because if he dropped it entirely, you wouldn't completely recognize his voice, but it gets much more subtle, much softer on that accent, and then he snaps back into it at a certain point where it's like, okay, he's back into his persona. But we wanted to get softer on the cowboy persona so that you got the sense of Jake is really talking from his heart here. So that was something we did very purposefully, so that his cowboy accent would go away when he, in that one moment where he was really just kind of laying it on the line. But otherwise, yeah, he does just a fantastic job. He did get pitched down a little bit, just to give him a little bit more oomph to his voice. Otherwise, not too pitched down. It's not a big difference from his own voice, apart from the cowboy element. And he just was he did a very nice job with Marshall's kind of arrogance, because Marshall has this interesting persona in the story where he's kind of he's kind of leading people along as he goes through. He doesn't respond to questions in a very direct manner. And so there's that kind of, again, that whole knowing more than you're telling. But ultimately Marshall doesn't know nearly so much. That's actually the point, is that he's trying to seek out the answers, but he's at least trying to hide what he did in the evidence room. And so that kind of oblique approach to the conversations, he did a very nice job with that, and just kind of like, keeping a slight distance from the emotional content of the story so that he could be, like, no, really, I wasn't part of this. No, really, not at all. So he did that very nicely. And Skip is just such a talented freaking actor. He could, nailed this part. I knew he would nail this part the second I knew that I was going to be able to get him to do it. Thank you so much, Skip. Thank you for wanting to be in this and doing such a great job with it. He is going to go far, and I am going to be proud to say someday that this is a guy who's a friend of mine. So that is something I'm looking forward to taking advantage, even if only in mild conversations with random people, the fact that I know Hallock Beals. So next on our cast list is Aryiel Hartman. Aryiel is another Chapman Theater grad. She's an 07. I'll say this. There are members of the cast. I cast for voice quality, obviously, as opposed to physical resemblance to the character, because in voiceover, that's what matters, obviously. But what that means, of course, is that there are various members of the cast who I would not necessarily be able to play their characters in reality. Me, particularly included. I certainly couldn't play either Phoenix or Edgeworth. I don't look like either of them. So not only could I not play both of them, but I couldn't even play either of them if we were to do this live action. Aryiel Hartman could be a live action Angel Star. There's no question about that. Aryiel is a tall, very poised, beautiful woman. She is, she's just that right look. So she could easily be Angel Star in reality. So to that degree, her casting is very perfect. She's very right for that role, just in reality. She has a great poise to her because she is a dancer and a choreographer as well as an actress. She studied as an actress along with the rest of us, but she's also done quite a bit of work with the dance company, choreographing and dancing for them. So that's one of the fun things about her. As I think I mentioned on one of the earlier tracks, she was the only cast member who was living in Southern California who was able to come out to where I was. I live about an hour east from LA. Bizarrely enough, we actually reconnected maybe about half a year before I ever started this project. She just random. I'm working at Starbucks right now just to pay the bills, and she just randomly showed up at my Starbucks one day, just totally out of the blue, complete serendipity. I was working there at the time, like I was actually there on the floor working when she showed up, and that was just pure serendipity. It was so bizarre, and so we got to reconnect and rekindle the friendship over that. I hadn't seen her in a few years because I'd graduated, and a couple years before her, so it was really nice just to kind of renew that the awareness of each other. And so because of that, I think she was still in my mind when I was casting for this role. And so when it came to her coming out to me, that happened because in most of the cases, again, I'm living an hour east, I would drive out to where most of my cast members were, either out in LA or Orange County, and just record it at their homes, because that was the easiest thing to do, just in terms of, because there was no space that we were using, no pre-established voice booth area. Like I said, didn't have a lot of tech, certainly not doing this on a budget, couldn't like rent a sound booth or anything like that. But in the case of Aryiel, she said, I live next to train tracks or something that would make a lot of sound, and so she thought, there's no way you're going to get a good sound quality, so I'll come out to you, which was so nice of her to do. We recorded out in LA for her retake session. I'd combined a few of the retake sessions when we're coming down to kind of the home stretch, doing them like 2 at a time or something like that. Skip and Eric did their retakes together, and Aryiel and James did their retakes together. So we did Ariel's and James's retakes at James's apartment. So we were able to avoid that problem, and she didn't have to come all the way out to Rancho Cucamonga for the retake. But she did come out to me for the main record. So that was really nice, and she got to meet my puppies, which she loved because they're the most adorable puppies on the planet. Sorry to every other dog owner on the planet. I happen to own the world's cutest dogs. My apologies, but you lose. Anyway, so working with her for Angel Star, in that respect was very easy because I had a very specific image in mind when I was playing the game for the voice of the character, and when I was casting the character, and when I was directing the character, and that was 40s era Lauren Bacall, Betty Davis. I mean, we're talking these Philip Marlowe femme fatale types, and that was what I was looking for from the get-go. I mean, that character is pure femme fatale. She totally is, and I knew that I had to cast for that. So that was the image I had for Aryiel when she started just looking at the script. It was like, I want you to think of this particular image, so this is the route you're going to go with this character. And I think that just fit her to a glove, because she could totally do the femme fatale. Again, she's totally an Angel Star in reality. She could totally do femme fatale. It was a very, I think, comfortable fit for her. And so in a way, it was maybe one of the easiest performances for me to direct, because she got into that persona so immediately, so perfectly. It was one of, I think, the easiest fits from actor to character that I had in the cast. And that, even when given the fact that Angel Star is such a gimmicky character, because Angel Star is, one of an Ace Attorney staple. She is the gimmicky witness, like Jake Marshall, but Jake Marshall has other connections to the story, and to that matter, so does Angel Star. But still, her primary role is as a gimmicky witness, and she has all these goofy lunch lady lines and talking about like I'll fry you like a fritter, all these goofy food lines that was kind of weird to hear from this femme fatale perspective, but she totally got it. She totally figured out how to do it. And I think I think that record session was a very fun, it was not a lot of work. It didn't feel like a lot of work for that particular record, because she was able to hook into that one with the greatest of ease, I think. And even though she felt a little neurotic about how bizarre some of these lines were and the strangeness of her character arc, Aryiel got it, just totally got it from day one, with this character. The funny thing about her about her persona, or about the Angel Star character arc, was that she does have a strange arc in that she has the bulk of her material in the first trial day, first investigation day and trial day, and then after that she makes only these sporadic appearances thereafter, and so because of that, she kind of just dwindles off. She doesn't really have a big climactic moment for Angel Star. She just kind of dribbles off into the storyline, and that was something that we kind of worked on because she doesn't really culminate throughout throughout the story. She has her, she gets defeated in the courtroom, but even after that, she still has moments to kind of basically. With Angel Star kind of keeps showing up in the story just to remind Phoenix, don't forget, you're dealing with the fact that it looks like Lana killed somebody. And that's the thing that you have to be cognizant of, even though they end up not really discussing the whole the prosecutor's office parking lot thing, in the following trial days. That's something that's there just to remind her of. And what that meant for Aryiel was that we just kind of worked on the idea of she still has a certain amount of respect for Phoenix because Phoenix is not a prosecutor, so she has more respect for Phoenix than she does for Edgeworth. She fucking hates prosecutors, obviously, by virtue of what happened to her. And so she has just a respect for Phoenix when it's implied that Phoenix is maybe not so much of a schmuck as she thought he was. She thought, this guy will never figure it out, and then it seems to imply, oh no, maybe he's going to do it. So she just kind of cools down the problem, and she warms up to him in that respect more throughout the story, to the point where she finally kind of reveals, and this was the big climax really to Angel Star, was not a big climax but a quiet emotional one, where she just kind of implies there was once a time that Angel Star was actually very fond of Lana Skye, was actually even looked up to Lana Skye, and she felt betrayed. And that was really the big surprise. That was what we built up to emotionally for that performance. And Aryiel, again, just nailed it. Thank you so much, Aryiel. You were so perfect in this role. It was, a match made in heaven.